I'm an artist. I don't really want to call myself an artist. It's more of an expression. And I work with indigo primarily. Indigo is a blue dye. It's a natural dye. It comes from a plant called Indigo ferratinctoria, which is grown in Dindivanam in Tamil Nadu, and I source it from there. You would see that all my artworks have indigo in it, right? It is almost like a spiritual connect which I have with the indigo. That is why I keep repeating the same dye. I do not use any other color. At Lakshmi Nivas, I actually started exploring and using a lot of materials which I found here, and also a lot of thought process which went behind it influenced me to use these materials. For example, earth. I see a lot of connect between indigo and earth, and you would see again a lot of the work have that. And all of these are thoughts. It is more experimental than a product. I grew up with Carnatic music. My dad still sings and used to sing more often earlier. So that is a memory which is always there. Not that I am a Carnatic musician or an expert, but a lot of my work also has that in the background. Sometimes I play these tracks on a guitar and record it, again not as a performance, only for myself, and explore with that. So a lot of the work which I do has a meditative concept. That's why you would see like a line, and all of the work starts with a concept or a thought, and it starts reducing. It comes down to one level or a point or a line, and that is where it's almost like mark making. The artistic term for what I do is called mark making. So I would do the indigo, and I would use a toothpick or a small bamboo stick, and I would do these strokes. These strokes are almost there in all of the work. Kaimurai actually brings in the artisans and craftsmen which are working behind, like most of the time. Khadi or indigo, they actually go through a lot, and that comes through together in my work, and that influences me to actually do the work. And Carnatic music and the ragas actually lets me eliminate the unwanted things from the concept, and that is how it comes together. This is the seed of Indigo ferratinctoria. This is then grown into a plant, and this needs large acreage. It's a very tedious process, and this I sourced from Dindivanam in Tamil Nadu. So this finally gives me, after a long process, the plant grows, the plant is processed. It's a long process where they put it in a tank, soak it, take the water out, and the water is oxidized, then boiled and made into a paste. Then the paste is dried, and then this happens. This is the pigment which I use. You can see the blue pigment. So this pigment, I work with different concoctions, you can see here again like the paste which I've created. This is with Arabic gum. It acts as a binder. So this is my primary material. All my work have it, and like I said, indigo is a very mysterious plant and is one of the toughest natural dye. It is mainly used in clothing, and till around 1880s this was the only source for blue color in clothing, and this led into a major political game because it was a cash crop. And in fact, in India, British, what they did was they were forcing farmers to grow indigo, and you could literally say that one of the first independence movement was related to indigo in Champaran. So what happened is, farmers didn't have food. They couldn't grow their own food in their farm. They had to grow indigo for the British, and they would take it and export it. And this process is very unique to India, in fact, because like I said, it is dried and it is made into powder. What happens is, this is a format which can be exported very easily. Every other country, as in a lot of the countries or regions, had indigo. It is not like it is only in India. It is there in Japan, it is there in Africa, it is there in Mexico, but none of them could devise this technique. Nobody made this format, and this led to export, and it was a big game, a big money making process. Before I started doing these works, and with khadi or indigo and the exploration, I was actually in the corporate field. I studied fashion design from NIFT, and I got into the mainstream fashion field. I was working with very big brands in India, and I worked for 15 years in the industry, traveling the world, a comfortable corporate job, and that was my day-to-day routine. And it was always there in my mind that when I turn 35, I have to actually work on something which I really connect with. And this actually came to me from the fashion industry itself. You would see that indigo is actually a natural dye which is used in the industry, not that I work with, but I've seen it. Same thing with khadi, not generally used, but I've seen it. What we used to use in the fashion industry is mill made, the machine made materials, which I feel that it doesn't have a human connect. One of the primary material which I use is khadi. Now you can look at it, indigo, khadi. These are the two materials which I mostly use and keep exploring with, if we have to talk about materials. And khadi I source from different places, but this is from Hubli. You can see it is a beautiful unbleached Kora khadi. So what makes it khadi? The yarn which is used is hand spun, and the fabric is hand woven. I do work on khadi and indigo. How do we connect with the landscape here? And this thought kept on coming, saying I need to bury the work, and this has a strong connect with a forest. What happens in a forest? It's like a cycle. It's always together, but it's always working. There's always a flow, and that is something which kept on coming in my head. And this particular work was actually clean, just a khadi and just a single line with that strokes what you see here. And this was buried under the earth for a week, and this came out with this beautiful earth pigment on it, with all these spots and textures. And it is again like a lot of people have worked on it. It could be insects, it could be the whatever is there under the earth has worked on this, and you could see a whole color change, and this was a single line, and when we took it out, it became two. And this actually brought in a thought in my head, calling Naivedya. That means a blessing. Be it a temple or a mosque or a church or any religion, there's always a concept of blessing. What I'm saying here is the forest has given a blessing, and it has actually transformed the work. So here you see something very interesting, because this is actually a valli or a root which grows in around the landscape here, and also various forests. These are sometimes problematic, but anything in forest I don't think grows without a meaning. Yeah. So here the parallel or the comparison is to a fabric. So a fabric is made with something called a warp and a weft. Warp is the vertical thread and weft is the horizontal thread. Any fabric in the world is made like that, or generally it is made like that. You would see that weaving, different patterns, but it's always there's a warp and a weft, and there's a tension, there is a looseness, and it is that coexistence or the symbiotic relationship which is there in a fabric is the parallel which I'm drawing to a forest, and the landscape what I see. So that is what is shown here. You would see that indigo is painted till half, and then it actually is the natural root itself. And you would see I've done the horizontal weaving here, but it's not perfect. It is not straight. It is intentionally done like that. It is still loose. And one of the interesting part of this material itself is that it keeps growing. It is still growing. you know. So yeah, so this is parallel to a fabric. So you can see this work here, or an experiment which I've been working on. So this actually touches on a concept of transition. There's always a kind of movement which is there in all of us and all around us, and this is something which I wanted to experiment on. You can see here that it starts with indigo, and earth pigment starts coming in. It's almost like an eclipse of what is happening. You would see indigo is again moving, and the earth pigment is becoming more. The mud which is there, it's becoming more, and it starts again coming back to indigo. The brown color of the fabric, you would think that it is a dyed fabric, the color has been applied on the fabric, but it's actually natural. The cotton is brown in color, that is why the fabric is brown in color, and it's a khadi, hand spun, hand woven fabric which is from brown cotton. It is grown in Dharwad region in Karnataka, North Karnataka, and I sourced this fabric from Bangalore itself. And this work is called Nowhere to Go. Where means root, and this is like a pun. Nowhere to go, because we have the root, and this is like a expression of my work, but there's a disconnect, because today's world, what is happening is there's a growth without thought, kind of thing which is happening, especially in the cities, but every rural area today is going to copy a city, So with this whole concrete world we live in, where does a root go? There's no soil left anymore actually to go under the earth. Here you have these 5 elements which are there on this table. This actually is called Abhaswara. So this is about hope. One is earth, one is forest or the indigenous plants, one is animals, one is, you would see a bamboo stick here which is also used as a lathi, which is basically the fight between humans. And here you would see seeds, again the lost indigenous seeds. So these are again works around the politics of earth and what we do, or our existence itself being a question. That is why it's called a hope, and you'll see end of the works left open. That is to say that there is a hope. So beautiful materials like khadi, like indigo, and the artisans who work, behind it are completely ignored. Now today there is a movement, people are talking about khadi and all these artisans, but it is typecast. It's like there is no real, not real, a lot of people are trying hard to do it, but it needs to move further.